Welcome to Backwards Incompatible, the video game podcast that always drinks upstream from the herd. My name is Garrett.
And I'm Zaid.
Howdy, y'all. I'm Pioneer Chase. Yippee-ki-yay.
Oh, jeez.
What happened to Chase?
When did we go back in time?
I just think it's funny that we're doing an Oregon Trail episode right after we did Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, bro, we're going into the west, the far deep west, that's for sure. So, speaking of time, like I mentioned before, how are you guys doing?
I'm doing all right, you know. I whipped myself up some hot cocoa today. That was very nice. 'Tis the season of that.
Ooh. You didn't do the Swiss Miss instant piss?
No, I did not use Swiss Miss, no.
Okay, thank God. My mom would always get Swiss Miss, and I had to, like, guzzle it in milk, in, like, chocolate milk, in order to make it taste like chocolate. I just wanted it for the marshmallows.
No, I just use some organic chocolate powder mix I got from Trader Joe's. It's very nice. I like to mix it with some marshmallows, maybe some whipped cream, put some little chocolate shavings on top of the whipped cream if I'm feeling really fancy. I like to go all out.
What kind of fucking drink are you having? You're like, you gotta make those for us when we come around.
You ever seen the Simpsons movie, the Ned Flanders hot cocoa? That's basically what I make.
Oh, Lord.
Minus the blowtorch.
What I tend to do is that I go and find, like, my favorite, like, just plain old chocolate. Usually in a darker variety because it's being mixed with milk, but I just find those bars and just kind of, like, shave it down to very fine, like, shreddings and melt that into a hot pot of milk. And mix that together while also melting marshmallows into it along with nutmeg and cinnamon.
Oh yeah, cinnamon. You gotta have cinnamon.
Dadgum.
Yeah, and then after that, I transfer it into a cup, put some whipped cream on top, and dash it off with a little bit more cinnamon and nutmeg.
I just put milk.
See, Garrett is what we in the hot cocoa community call a basic bitch.
I guess so. I just like milk in it, and I might put whipped cream on top if I feel fancy, but that's it.
We have the 3 layers, the 3 levels of hot cocoa here.
I mean, people have called me crazy for this, but I think you can have hot chocolate year-round. Maybe not summer, but spring, early fall, like September, October.
I want my insides to burn like mouth.
Don't quote me on this, but you know how we all think of eggnog as that seasonal winter drink? From what I understand, it was originally a summer drink created in a bar years ago. Like, I think it was like somewhere on the East Coast.
Oh, wow.
And it was not originally like a holiday drink, but over time it became that. I don't think there's any time of year that we should have certain things. Just enjoy it when you want. Why do we have to have pumpkin pie in the fall?
Yeah, because eggnog, I see a lot of like alcohol mixed with eggnog, and I figured it had something to do with it.
Yeah, it was originally an alcoholic beverage.
It just doesn't surprise me because there's a lot of things we use today that are very different from how they were originally intended to be used.
Speaking of all this fun talk, I actually have a question for us in the beginning.
Ooh.
I know, I'm really stepping into my role. So, question is this. If you were a high school teacher, what subject would you teach? I would probably teach health or art. 1 and 2.
What would your health class be?
Probably anatomy, biology, maybe. Like if you're talking like how our body heals and stuff like that, if you want that to be health, or if you want, because like, I don't know, health is health, bro.
The closest thing to a health class I had in school was just sex ed. I mean, there's biology class, and then there was like PE where we did a little bit of like health stuff, but I mean, mostly it was just like sex ed.
This is a penis and this is a vagina. Don't get the two confused, or do, I don't care.
Some people have both.
Yay!
And some people are born with the wrong one, but it's all right.
They don't go in that detail.
I wish they did. Would have saved me some trouble.
Same?
What about you, Zaid? What would you teach?
Well, if I were to teach things, it would either be like creative writing or science.
Ooh, both of those sound pretty cool.
I always enjoyed like writing. I love it a lot. It's fun to do. I mean, even if it doesn't lead anywhere, it's just fun to create like short stories or something, and then to simply be someone who can help teach that, and then maybe possibly inspire someone to go out and write amazing things.
So effectively, that awesome English teacher that's in the high school that everyone loves.
Yeah, but I don't want to just talk about like English fundamentals. Like, I want to actually teach like writing. And then outside that, like science and if I were to do science, probably specifically as astronomy.
Like an elective advanced course or something like that? Because
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, because I know there was AP literature and creative writing, and that was really fun.
Yeah, because like English, it's like there's that, it's important, it's a good class, but I mean, like, I want to focus on just the actual writing aspect, just letting your imagination go. That's what I love, is just like drawing things from imagination.
I'm picturing you as the type of teacher Robin Williams was in Dead Poets Society.
Okay.
I can definitely see that. Oh, Captain, my Captain. What about you, Chase?
Well, like you, Zaid, I think creative writing or really any artistic course would be pretty cool. I think that's really up my alley to encourage, foster the next generation of creatives and artists. I'd want to be a part of that.
So you and I have some of the same idea then.
But for more, I guess, quote-unquote, traditional curriculum, I guess history. History's always been a passion of mine for subjects.
Nerd!
Shut up. I graduated at the top of my class with really good grades.
Damn, Chase. You really put me to shame.
I'm gonna have us change conversation because I'm about to go on a rant that's for another day.
All right.
Bottom line is, stay in school, kids, and respect your teachers. They deserve respect.
Well, I want to know, what are you going to teach in history?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Garrett. I think my favorite subject in history would be World War II. Now, see, the Second World War really began in 1939.
I knew it!
You could... All right. The Oregon Trail.
All right, the Oregon Trail.
That's what he's gonna teach, is the Oregon Trail, all about it.
I'm actually not that familiar with the Oregon Trail's history itself, but in preparation for tonight's episode, I did do a little bit of cursory research into the subject. Honestly, though, the frontier, the pioneer times, it is a time period that I do have a bit of a fascination with. Just the idea of leaving, I guess, quote-unquote, civilization and going into these unexplored region that you don't know is out there, risking your lives in the elements in the wilderness. Now, granted, in real life, there were already people there, and manifest destiny, which resulted in the deaths of entire cultures and other tribes, and American imperialism and all that. It's not a pretty thing. But, you know, the romanticized version of it, let people have that.
It's so great and fun.
Wow, look at all the fun cowboys and settlers, and let's ignore the genocide and the plagues and all that.
Let's just focus on how we thought of it as a kid.
So, the Oregon Trail, the actual Oregon Trail, I figured we'd go into a bit of a abridged history of it, just to sort of ground us of what we're talking about today.
What is the Oregon Trail, Chase?
What is Oregon? I don't think it's a real state.
That's why there's "gone" in the name.
So the Oregon Trail refers to a series of different trails stretching across the western United States, typically beginning in Independence, Missouri, all the way to Oregon City, over 2,000 miles. While numerous indigenous tribes, such as the Sioux and Shoshone, had lived in the western United States for centuries, the Oregon Trail as we know it today can be traced back to the famed Lewis and Clark expedition from 1804 to 1806.
Yeah, they just chilled with Sacagawea and just went across the river.
Well, that's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
That's all I remember from it. I remember, like, it wasn't that, and other things happened, but that's what my brain recalls it to be.
He just chilled with Sacagawea.
So essentially, after the Louisiana Purchase, which added a whole bunch of new territory to the United States, President Jefferson looked over to the west and said, "I want that." So, he tasked Meriwether Lewis and William Clark to explore the Missouri River and see where it connected to the Pacific Ocean along the Pacific Northwest region.
Sounds like they went through a lot of rivers. What if they went to the Mississippi River?
Why didn't they just go on the freeway like we do today? Are they stupid?
Why didn't they just T-post through the sky? Jeez.
While they did map out a decent amount of the region, most of the territory they tracked wasn't really suitable for settlers in wagons. It was very difficult terrain, very unforgiving to inexperienced settlers. So while the region was mapped by Lewis and Clark, it did take a few years for people to actually start heading out there to establish settlements and whatnot.
A quick question. Where were most of these settlements? Were they in Oregon, or were they just kind of more spread throughout just because?
it would be along mostly Oregon and California. Washington wasn't too colonized by American settlers until a bit later.
Okay.
After the Lewis and Clark expedition, the Pacific Northwest actually came under the control of the British government in 1811. The territory was controlled by the British via the Hudson Bay Company, who were a fur trading company, and were essentially the de facto government of the region.
Oh.
That's interesting.
After the War of 1812, a treaty was signed between the British and the Americans, so that while the Hudson Bay Company was still more or less in control of the territory, American settlers were permitted into the region. Initially, it was religious missionaries heading into the area to evangelicalize and Christianize the indigenous people.
Yay.
Over the following decades, as more and more Americans settled into the territory, eventually the British government realized they no longer had prominent control. So, in 1846, a treaty was signed, the Oregon Treaty. This is where the modern Canadian and American border along the 49th parallel came into place.
Yay! Borders.
And Oregon itself would officially gain statehood in 1859, so about 15 years after the treaty was signed. So, there you go.
Those were all fascinating things. Thank you, Chase.
As for the Oregon Trail itself, I guess you could call it golden age of the Oregon Trail was from the 1830s to the 1860s. This golden age lasted until 1869, when the first transcontinental railroad was completed and basically made the whole wagon train thing a bit obsolete.
If I remember right, too, they would create one singular bridge. They were kind of like toll bridges where they would pay to cross a river, and they would pay them sometimes outrageous prices to where they just settled by the river.
Well, that's how a lot of towns out in the western half of the United States came to be, was some people were just like, this is good enough. We're done. We can just plop down here. Why not?
Yeah, I can build a house right there. I can hunt over there.
And there are, of course, many, many unique and interesting stories of actual pioneer wagon trains from this era. I think I've talked about this before in a previous episode, but the Donner Party, that's a very well-known, infamous one.
I think that's one of the biggest ones. Wasn't that the cannibalism one?
Oh my god.
Yeah, they got snowed in the Rocky Mountains. Yeah, that's a very...
Yeah, they got stranded.
That's a very infamous story.
I have never heard of Donner family at all.
Oh no.
Ain't no party like a Donner Party, I say.
Yeah, from what I remember of it, it's like essentially they got stranded up in the mountains and it was cold and freezing. They got desperate enough and they just started eating each other.
Well, it was the result of many, many poor decisions by the wagon train leaders. They left way too late in the year, so they were gonna get stuck in winter anyway. They kept taking wrong turns. They put their trust in guides who didn't know shit from shit and was just making things worse. Yeah, it was just basically a very poorly managed wagon train that resulted in cannibalism.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a great time.
I think I also mentioned this last time when we brought up the Donner Party, but I recently, earlier this year, I read a book that was essentially that. It was about the Donner Party, but there were like supernatural demons chasing them. I think it was called The Hunger. Good book, recommend it. And of course, there was also the whole California gold rush in 1849, which was somewhat adjacent to the Oregon Trail.
Yeah, it was around the same time period, at least.
Yeah, very similar, but that was more from a business kind of perspective. That wasn't really families seeking new land. That was more so people, miners, mostly men, heading into California to strike it rich. So that's essentially the brief over and under of the Oregon Trail itself.
Very, very creepy times.
Very thorough. I love that, Chase.
Imagine yourself in the pioneer shoes. You are giving up everything you know. Like, imagine just abruptly upending your life in the town you live, stripping yourself down to only the barest essentials, and hiking out with dozens of other people you barely know, hoping that you can trust each other to survive a several-month-long journey into unknown territory with just whatever supplies you can bring or forage. You don't know what's out there. Disease is rampant, and again, modern medicine, not a thing. So if you get sick or injured, there's a pretty good chance you're gonna die. And the elements, the rain, the desert, lack of water was a major concern. Poisonous water, toxic water, that's where dysentery was a major thing. You have died of dysentery.
Yeah, I mean, how much longer until, like, penicillin was invented?
I'm going to be kind of like doing my nurse history here. Penicillin came out in 1948, so 100 years.
It was at St. Mary's Hospital in 1928.
No, 1928? Damn, okay, well then 80 years. Sorry, guys. Nursing history, dumb.
But though, with more reading, it looks more into it was stuff that they did during that time that led into its full production. So what you might be thinking of when it was fully, like, marketed or whatever?
Maybe. I know there was something about 1940s with the people at St. Mary's.
But bottom line is, a lot of people died pursuing a dream to settle the West. And now, you can live those people's dreams and nightmares via the Oregon Trail series of video games. Yay!
Yay! Let's relive people's horrifying experiences.
Can you imagine being one of the people who died on the Oregon Trail? They just, like, come back to life and see this whole world, and then they find out there's a game about their, struggles.
There's just a city block that's built on top of, like, where a bunch of caravans just failed at.
To say nothing of all the many Native Americans that are buried in unmarked graves.
Yeah.
So, the Oregon Trail is a very old series of games. The original version of the Oregon Trail dates back to December 3rd, 1971, developed by Don Rauch, Paul Dillenberger, and Bill Heineman. So, they were teachers at a local middle school in Minnesota, and they had the idea, how do we better educate these kids? These kids are stupid. They're not learning anything. Let's make a game out of it.
What would they try to use it on? Like, I know computers weren't really big back in the day. Like, they were big because they were coming in, but...
That's the interesting thing. The original 1971 version of the Oregon Trail was entirely pen and paper text-based. They would print out pages describing everything, like, you approach a river, what do you do? Then the kids would fill in the answers, and they would then print out the next page of instructions. It's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. I guess, like, it then, like, teachers or something like that would evaluate, like, okay, would you realistically survive with that decision?
Imagine wasting tons of stacks of paper getting through the game, and then you just read one sentence, you have died of dysentery.
You shouldn't have ate those berries, Jimmy.
Trees died for that. Anyway, so the game became a huge hit with the students and teachers alike. Years later, in 1985, it was eventually developed into a more traditional computer game for the Apple II, developed by MEC, Minnesota Educational Computing Consortium. It was also later ported to DOS, Mac, and on Windows throughout the early 90s. Mm-hmm. This version was designed by R. Philip Boucard, and this is the version most people are familiar with, is the 1985 version.
I don't know if I played the one by Philip Boucard.
This is the version I'm most familiar with because when I was in elementary school, the 1985 version, I'm pretty sure it was the 85 version, was installed on most of the school's computers, so I do remember playing this as a young wee lad.
My memories of this are very brief, but I remember them well. I think it was first grade, actually, and there was just a computer in the back of the classroom that had the 1985 version of it through DOS on it.
I want you guys to kind of, like, hear me out on something. So I kind of am looking at what the Oregon Trails were released for, and I see in 1992, Oregon Trail Deluxe was made for DOS with mouse support.
They were the pioneers of the early computer frontier.
The frontier to the game about the frontier.
While the 1985 version is probably the most iconic version, there have been many re-releases and different versions of the Oregon Trail over the years. There's the 1995 sequel, Oregon Trail 2, which was published by Softkey for Windows, DOS, and Macintosh. Throughout 1997 to 2001, there were various editions by the Learning Company, Oregon Trail 3rd Edition, 4th Edition, 5th Edition, and all that. I think I played one or two of those, the 4th and 3rd editions and all that, because looking at the cover art of these games, it does ring a bell to me.
Apparently there's one that came out like last year.
Yeah. Since 2009, Gameloft, who has the license, has put out various mobile game versions, the most recent being in 2021. In 2018, there was a physical board game version made by the Pressman Toy Corporation. I think they also made a card game version as well.
That's interesting. I wonder how that would work.
So basically, there's been a lot of different versions of the Oregon Trail.
I know I played it way, like, kind of like they tried to make it 3D realistic in terms of graphics, and we thought, like, oh man, it's the bee's knees, but it still had the way of hunting in the Oregon Trail, like just run around and shoot a gun.
I just can't wait for some kid to make a full version of it in Roblox.
Yeah.
I'd love to see a reverse Oregon Trail. You start in Oregon and make your way back to Missouri.
This place sucks. Let's go back.
I think there were probably some.
I don't really think so, because imagine it's like you go from one place that has all these resources that you start with, head there. By the time you get there, you're out of like everything, and then you think, oh, let's just go back with nothing. It's like you've already been through all that, you're done. Not to mention you don't have the resources to do it again.
But dude, you're gonna be, everyone will dig you. You're gonna get a lot of likes on Pigeon Harmony.
It's not like moving between Oregon and Missouri was impossible. A lot of people, individual people, would do it on horseback. It's more of the logistics of a full-on wagon train convoy that made it more difficult. If you were just one person on horseback, yeah, you could do it, and many people did.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of what it goes through. It doesn't really talk about this one individual. It's always talking about the caravans or the individual families going off on their own.
Right. No one cares about Joe Smith, who's going between Missouri and Oregon every week.
Just thinks he's hot shit, rubbing it in everyone's face.
Anyway, so what are some of your guys' pioneer stories of playing the Oregon Trail? How did your expeditions go?
Well, like my second time I completed it. I will tell you that much. But I think the most memorable is the first time. So I made the family, which was my girlfriend's name and kind of like 3 names that we've agreed on in the past that we want to name our kids. You know, be all cute. Well,
we see where this is going.
This was a simulation if you and your girlfriend actually grew up in the Old West, the 1830s. Here's how it would have gone if you attempted this.
I know. It was so horrible. I even chose Ohio because it was the closest to Michigan.
I chose Ohio too.
So the trail starts off fine, you know, chugging along. I bought enough bullets to kind of like get us there. I hardly ever needed to really hunt.
Gotta type in bang.
Type in bang.
Bang.
So we got to the first river. That was pretty tame, I want to say. It was totally fine. We wasted a couple of days, but we had plenty of food. So we go on the trail and I'm like, you know, I think they deserve a rest. You know, we did a lot today. And I was like, this is going to be perfect. We get robbed. All right. What did they steal? Almost all of my food. We're starving.
They took the Slim Jims, they took the Mountain Dew, the Doritos.
All that's left are bottles of water, and who's gonna want that?
All that's left are sugar-free gummy bears.
No, we're gonna shit ourselves. This is gonna be dysentery.
So we only had like 3 days worth to get the Fort Werney, I believe. Got the Fort Wienery, but I rushed there because I'm like, oh man, we're out of food. We gotta get to a place that has food. Well, I already broke all 3 of our kids' legs, so they're crippled.
Whoa.
Why'd you do that, Garrett?
I don't know. The game just said it.
I'm not going to tell you how to raise your kids, but I think that's a bit harsh.
They didn't like mama's cooking, and they didn't like what dad provided. A good time out to the west.
It's gonna be a great time.
They didn't have a great time. All broken legs. So we finally get to Fort Wienerny, and I'm just like, get me a fucking bag of food right now. So I buy enough food to like gauge by the picture I saw, like, oh man, Independence to the Kansas River took that long, yada yada yada. I was like, okay, maybe I just need 3 of food. We do make it to Chimney Rock, and then we kept going. And we almost got to Laramie, but then the axle broke. All right, I'll fix the axle. I got like 1 more. But I think I skipped over the message that said when I rested, I lost my last axle. So, going through Independence Rock, kind of making it and all that. But when we get to South Pass, all of a sudden, these people are thirsty. I just bought traded a bunch of crap in order to get this. So, all my kids are now butt naked because I had to trade to get food.
They're just all broken limbs that haven't set right, naked. Father, provide us with some water, please.
was like the most horrible father. We had to share one piece of clothing.
Father, I want to wear the sock.
You get the shirt this day, and you get the pants this day.
She got the shirt.
All right, whose turn is it to wear the one pair of underwear? And just like many of the real fathers in the Oregon Trail, you refuse to cut your losses, turn around, and keep pressing on.
Let's go.
I'm not going to do anything. Let's just try to go to Fort Bridger. I kept pressing on, and we were definitely fighting. That's for sure. So on the way, my kid got dehydrated and died.
Was it your favorite kid?
And no, it wasn't my favorite kid. Always a troublemaker.
Ah, well, you got 2 more. You got spares.
Yeah. So, next, a wheel broke. And so we had to spend more time out there.
I like to think you had a bigger reaction to the wheel breaking than your kid dying.
I had a bigger reaction because I thought...
Wait, now everyone's gonna die.
Your kid dies and you're like, God damn it, your wheel breaks. No! No!
I will say I did have a mini heart attack in the beginning because I kind of read Wagon Wheel 0 instead of Wagon Wheel Axle. So here's where I noticed that why do I have not one more axle? Where did we go wrong? So
well, it all started when you left Ohio.
Yeah. So we get to the river. And I'm like, well, we're a lighter load, I guess. They said the river was like a certain depth, and our wagon lost a lot of cargo, and that included the very clothes that we had, and as well as 15 bullets, and I only had 2 bullets left to really get some food on the way.
4 people, 2 bullets. Stand in line, kids.
Oh no.
Daddy's hungry.
It's okay, it comes on the screen. I just know we're close. It says I think 80 miles or something like that. And now my wife is dying for some reason.
She's just dying. She's just done.
For some reason, you think back to everything that's happened up to this point, and you're like,
I can't imagine why she's dying, but she's dying.
Yeah, just for some reason, she's dying. She dies before we get to Fort Bridger, but I have my 2 kids still. I gotta make this work. I have to at least get the soda.
Soda Springs, that's 40% of the way there.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's something like that. I think it's halfway.
You're not even halfway through the trip.
So we started heading to Soda, and I am now down all of a sudden to 1 oxen. Because apparently, when we rested, a thief came in and they stole him. It hurt so much. I only have 1 bull left. And I'm like, listen, Bessie, if you don't make it, it's okay. I think we'll just settle here in the hot desert.
Just so you know, Bessie, when it comes down to it and we're all starving, I'd eat the kids before you.
Well, not long after that, both my kids kind of died one day after the next. And it was very surreal.
My wife and kids just died because of my decisions.
I decided to just take them out onto the road in the middle of the night just to head out.
I wish they had a give up option.
That's what the last bullet's for.
Yeah. I just kind of died before I made it to Soda Springs, and I dehydrated. It was a wild adventure.
And on your next playthrough, you pass by your tombstone.
Yes, I passed by my tombstone, and it hurt. I knew what to expect now, and I knew what to do. I did make it all the way to Oregon, but seeing those tombstones...
Now, would you like to go from that story to another story?
Yeah, why not?
Alright, here we go. So, mine, I started off with just thinking of it we're just a group of friends that's going to Oregon. So, I named the group Zaid, Chase, Garrett, Zip, and Zop.
Ah, yeah, Zip and Zop, our other co-hosts. They've been here the whole time.
Yes, they're always here. What do you mean?
Everyone, please welcome to Backwards Incompatible Zip and Zop. Woo!
But anyway, so I started off with buying 8 oxen, 13 sets of clothing, 200 bullets, 3 replacement wagon wheels, 2 axles, and 2 tongues, along with 300 pounds of food.
The difference is between Garrett and Zaid. Garrett just grabbed his kids and wife and just went. Zaid, got a book, read a pamphlet, educated themselves, talked to guides.
When I was listening to Garrett's story, I'm like, oh wow, this is gonna be a completely different story. I had $360 left over. I started off everyone on meager rations. So pretty much how I decided to do it is like, we were just going to journey, right? On the road, it was meager rations. But when we stopped to rest, I would put it to full rations. So it's like, we're resting, we can eat, relax, fill our bellies, have a great time. But on the road, you got to conserve. So anyways, we set off, reached the Kansas River. We stopped and rested for a day, get everyone's some food, just moved on. Little did I know, this was going to be the final meal for one of my party members. So we decided to float across the river, just kind of like dismantle the wagon, sail across. It tips over halfway on the 9th of March, and Garrett dies and drowns in the river.
No! No!
Garrett's dead.
What?
At the first hurdle, he's gone.
What the fuck? No!
His last meal.
I just want to say I'm not surprised Garrett is the first one to go. I always suspected.
Ouch! What the fuck, bro? I am not the first to die. What the fuck?
Look, man, I'm just saying, you don't have the raw power and survival skills of Zip and Zop, alright? Between the 5 of us in a zombie apocalypse, I think Zip and Zop are a force to be reckoned with.
You're not gonna mess with those two.
I don't like this story.
But anyway, after that happened, my first thought was like, oh boy, this is me quite the journey, isn't it? Because my idea was I was going to play games until I reached Oregon, and then that's when I was going to stop. So that lasted 1 game, though. Spoiler alert. So Garrett's fucking dead. Anyway, nothing really happens. Make it to the Blue River Crossing, pass on through that, no issue. Reach Fort Kearney, I think it was pronounced, was it?
Yeah, I think Fort Kearney.
At this point, I decided to restock. Bought 100 pounds of food, and that put me down to $206. Everything else is pretty much the same. Nothing lost. We're all good.
I'm glad that you were able to provide for everybody else.
Yeah. Moving on, it's April 24th. We arrive at Fort Laramie, and then right before we entered, we found a grave that just simply said, hey, come out and play.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I'm like, I don't want to play.
I'm like, excuse me? What do you mean come out and play?
That is really, whoa.
And then also, we decided to rest for a day, but when I went to go do that, Chase got lost for 5 days.
I saw a really cool squirrel.
Chase just ran off in a direction, and we didn't see him for 5 days straight.
Where were you going?
Guys, I found this pine cone.
On the 17th of May, we reach Independence Rock, and then on the 19th, 2 days after we left, Chase just fucking breaks his arm.
My arm just does that sometimes.
We don't know what Chase is doing, comes back, and a couple days later just breaks their arm.
He was mad. He lost his pine cone.
That's my gamer hand.
Anyway, and then, so after, that, you have that, choice where you can go to, Fort Bridger, was it?
Yeah, and Soda Springs. You could choose one of those 2 options.
I decided to go down to Fort Bridger. And then on the way there, Chase, on June 1st, Chase gets a fever. And then on June 11th, Chase gets dysentery.
Oh my god!
I'm just lying in the back of the wagon like I shouldn't have touched that pine cone. I didn't wash my hands afterwards.
We don't know what Chase was doing for those 5 days, but he got something.
I was licking rocks.
And then on June 22nd, Zip had just gone missing.
Zip and Zap gone missing?
No, just Zip went completely missing for 2 days. Comes back later.
You can't Zop without Zip. Without Zip, there is no Zop.
And then on July 1st, Chase once again gains dysentery.
Oh god, it hurts.
Bro has been shitting for a month.
And then on July 5th, we finally reach Soda Springs. And then on the 12th of July, Chase once again got dysentery.
What are you giving him Powerade or something? Oh my god.
Though I will say, I was using text-to-speech to do my notes when doing this, so I didn't have to stop and then type. And for the 12th, instead of saying dysentery, it says descendered. I don't know what that means.
The game was having too much fun. It was like, he's gonna keep shitting. Like, this is him now.
The more I shit, the more I shat. And the more I shat, the more I shit.
I think being lost in the river is way better than Chase's fate.
Yeah.
This is Garrett's revenge.
We reach Fort Hall, and then eventually find another gravestone for someone named Gifford. And then on August 9th, we reached the Snake River crossing, employed the help of one of the local natives there, and we got through just fine.
Always the smart choice.
On September 7th, Chase now has cholera.
Why is this only happening to me? What did I do?
I don't know.
Chase's ability is to take the worst fucking disease in Oregon Trail and make a baby with it. That's literally Chase.
And then Chase decides on the 8th, the next day, to give Zip the fever, because I know this, because Chase gets cholera, and the next thing we know is Zip has the fever.
Oh my god, he's the plague.
But anyways, everything's fine. October 22nd, we've reached the Blue Mountains. It's okay. And then we decide to float down the Columbia River. Nothing happened. It was fine. It was okay.
Okay, good.
And then we reached to Oregon without any issue. I ended the game with 1,703 points, but because I chose Carpenter, it doubled to 3,406 points.
You see, Garrett, your sacrifice was well worth it.
It gave Chase immortality. Chase could not die from anything.
Chase actually took my soul and gave himself my vitality and resistance to resist death.
That was my playthrough. I'm just like, you know what? That's enough. I'm good. Chase got dysentery 3 times.
You, Zip, and Zopper just cheering, having a party. I'm in the back of the wagon just...
Zip's just not partying as hard because they got a fever. They're feeling a little down.
Unfortunately, most of my story isn't that eventful, so I played several different games just to get as much out of it as I could. My first playthrough, we had barely gone a few miles outside of Independence when half my party broke their legs, and I'm like, we're barely a week in, people. How?
Step out the door, breaks leg.
The first river we came to, the Kansas River, I looked at it and I thought, it's not that deep in the middle. We can cross this.
Yeah, wasn't it only like 6 feet?
4 to 6 feet deep, and 4 of my party members just drowned right then and there, the Kansas River, and I just gave up. I'm just like, okay, never mind. Second playthrough, I win as banker because money. I bought 800 pounds of food, a bunch of wheels, axles, and all that, 6 oxen, a bunch of clothing, and I was thinking, all right, I'm gonna approach this methodically. I'm gonna roleplay as someone who has done their research. They know what they're getting into. They've listened to the tales.
Okay.
At first, I had everyone eating very filling meals, but after we got to the first fort, I realized we're kind of burning through our food rations. All right, we're gonna start rationing it out. Everyone meager meals from now on. I also would fluctuate the pace. Sometimes I'd go strenuous, sometimes I'd go at a leisurely pace. A lot of people did get exhaustion. There were some injuries. Oh, by the way, I named my party members Dutch, Arthur, Hosea, John, and Abigail. Haha.
Listen!
So yeah, some broken arms, dysentery, cholera, but no deaths. No one died. No starvation either, even though we did come close a few times. We did kind of burn through food rations because I wasn't keeping stock halfway through the journey. But once we got to Soda Springs, I was able to restock. As banker, I had plenty of money. I made sure that at each landmark, I would always rest at least one day just to refresh the party. And when we got to the canyon crossing, I also accepted the help of the local Native American to get us through the canyon, because why wouldn't you? You know, that's the intelligent choice.
Yeah, and I did something similar with like resting at every landmark. And I mean, I did also have a couple issues where some wagon wheels broke, but it wasn't that eventful. It's just like, put on one of my spares. I lost 3 oxen at one point. But because nothing really came of that, I just left that out of my story.
Right. I did get robbed at one point, but they only took bullets, ammunition, and I had plenty of food left, so I didn't have to hunt, so no small loss. So yeah, I made it to Oregon City with no deaths, no losses. Everything was pretty good.
Wow. I love how most of the stuff that happened with mine wasn't necessarily through my decisions. It just happened. The one thing that happened as a result of my decisions was Garrett dying in the river. I mean, at the end of it, a little after halfway, like, I was having to, like, start hunting because I ran out of food for buying more rations. But because I had so many bullets, I would kill some animals and then be like, oh, you got like 300 pounds of food, but you can only bring 100 pounds back. And by the time I ended with it, I still had like 150 bullets.
It really is a cool game, and it does teach you about the Oregon Trail, at least to a certain extent. I wouldn't say it replaces an actual education, but if you're a kid, like the ideal demographic is someone who just wants a overview of what the wagon train days were like, I think the Oregon Trail teaches you a pretty good amount. It paints a picture for you.
It's educational in the sense of that it's good for someone at a really young age.
Yeah, but guys, I just had a creative idea. How about we play the Oregon Trail right now on the podcast?
Okay.
Sure, I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, it'd be fun to do.
Yeah, let's do it right now. Let's have you do the live. Yeah.
All right, so here we go.
Okay, so you're playing the Windows DOS port as well.
Yeah, this is the 1990 version.
Yeah, all right, cool. Yeah, this is the same version I played.
All right, guys, who should we be? Banker, carpenter, or farmer?
Well, we learned what happens when you're a carpenter from Ohio.
Yeah.
Everyone dies, or Chase just gets dysentery the entire time.
Fucking Ohio.
All right, so we're going to be a farmer from Illinois.
Yeah.
Who is the first name of our wagon leader?
Silmare.
Silmare. All right. Who else is in this party?
Felix.
Wendell.
And Wendell.
All right. Who else? I know. Zip and Zop.
Yay, Zip and
Zip and
Zop,
Zop.
let's go!
They came back to help.
Zip and Zop. Are these names correct? Yes.
Of course.
All right. When should we leave?
Do we have to, should we explain our character names that we just chose?
No. April. We're leaving in April.
Okay. Yay.
All right. We have $400.
Oh no. Carpenter, you start with 800.
Bankers have like 1,200.
Okay, which item would you like to buy? Let's buy oxen first. I like to go down the list.
All right. Oxen. I think we should buy 4 oxen.
That would work. I think we should at least have like 200 or 300 pounds of food.
Yeah. I vote more like 250.
I say 600. I
Whoa.
think 600 should get us through.
All right.
We should have a decent amount of bullets as well. Because like instead of like buying more food later, we could rely on hunting later to save money.
Mm-hmm. So here's the thing, though. I feel like we don't need to buy more than 140 bullets of ammunition.
I mean, bullets are really cheap to begin with, so you can buy a lot for fairly cheap.
I say we just buy 4 boxes.
Yeah, that works. That's gonna be more than enough, especially when I bought that 200, I didn't even use half.
We should have 3 wagon wheels.
Alrighty.
I think.
I did 3 and then 2 of each of the others.
I always had 2 axle and 2 tongue, because what if somebody steals it?
But though we are kind of like, oh, that was weird for me.
All right, we got $2 to spare. Bye.
Oh, do.
Let's change our food rations before going. Let's change it to meager.
What I had going was pretty good on mine, where it's just like you start off with meager, and then when you rest, we switch it to like filling.
All right, we're at the Kansas River crossing. I say we take a rest. Let's just rest one day.
I thought if we talk to the person, I think talk to people. Let's talk to people.
A stranger tells you, can't afford to take a ferry. We're making our wagon into a boat. We'll turn it over, caulk the bottom and sides with pitch, and use it to float our goods across. Have to swim the animals. Hope it doesn't rain. The river's high enough.
Uh-oh.
Which means this river's, it's only 4.6 feet deep.
I think it needs to be lower.
I say we caulk it. I think we should float.
Yeah.
I think one of us is going to die if we do.
Here we go. We're floating.
This is how Garrett died, I mean.
Oh God! No.
I told you.
Okay.
We lost one wagon wheel, it's fine.
Yeah, everyone's good. We're all good.
Here's the thing, if someone drowned during that, I'd be like, why didn't you stand up?
All right, we only lost a wheel. We're good. We're coming up to the next river here.
Oh God.
Felix has typhoid.
Damn it.
Don't worry about it, I got the typhoid fever.
Let's take a break. Let's give Felix a day to rest.
Are we changing our supplies to kind of like being a little meaty sometimes?
I think if it's a one day, and since we're at the very beginning, it's not as important to do, maybe.
Oh, like kind of later. Yeah.
Maybe like next time, like maybe when, or something like that.
Everyone appears to be in good health. It's only 2.7 feet deep in the middle.
Oh, yeah, we can cross that. Just ford the river.
Yeah, I think that's what I did.
Here we go. All right, everything appears to be going well. All right, I think we're in the clear.
I gotta remember, this is all up to chance and not literally just what you choose.
Aw, our supplies, got wet. I don't want to eat soggy cereal.
I'll eat it.
Damn it, Zip and Zop.
All right, 118 miles to Fort Kearney. Here we go.
Let's go.
We're doing all right.
What should we do at Fort Kearney? I think we got, let's check our supplies real quick. I think everything's going well. Okay, 8 oxen, sets of clothing. Okay, we're doing pretty well.
We're going food for a while, too. I think we're okay.
I think this is the perfect time to update I was going to say change food rations to full, and then that will get our health back up to good, maybe? Or are we still waiting later?
Bare bones.
We don't get to eat.
Filling. Everyone's getting filling meals. All right.
For one day.
Yeah, and we'll just switch it back, like, later.
To Chimney Rock. My dearest Adelaide, I write to you in the hopes that this letter finds you well. Zip has dysentery. Oh no.
Not
Zip. Oh, wrong trail. Lose 3 days.
This happened to me a lot. I actually lost a lot of days.
Damn it, Wendell, you're reading the map upside down.
Wendell.
One of the oxen is injured. Damn it, Wendell, stop riding the oxen.
Wendell, stop wrestling with them.
I like wrestling. Let's change the food rations back to...
Yeah.
All right, meager. Should we change our pace a little bit?
Well, I think steady's been fine.
I never changed my pace once throughout the entire time.
Bro has dysentery and is like, don't care that you shit, make us go faster.
We press on.
Zips is like, I will propel us forward with the power of my shit.
We lost the trail, we lost a day.
I'm sure at this point, like, Zip doesn't have dysentery anymore.
Felix has a fever.
Oh no.
Felix, stop getting sick.
No, I will continue to lick the floor that Wendell walks on.
All right, let's talk to some people here at Fort Laramie, while we're here.
Yeah.
These greenhorns heading across the Rockies know nothing about surviving in the mountains. It gets awful cold up there, even in summer. Many a traveler crossing the mountains too late in the year has gotten snowbound and died.
Well,
that won't happen to us. Let's take a look at the map here.
That's another reason why I started in March, was simply just because I wanted to beat the snow so quickly.
we should buy some supplies, right? Do you think we can buy some supplies?
We only got $2. How much can we buy?
Oh, true.
We got $2.
True. Let's just hope we get lucky.
All right, we press on.
Up all night to get lucky.
We can stop and assess the situation whenever we want.
We keep losing the trail. Okay.
We have zero food. We need to size up the situation.
All right, we're stopping.
All right, we're stopping after 7 days of no damn food.
We need to eat.
All right, let's hunt.
Try shooting bears when they come around.
Buffalo.
Shoot the bison. No, come on.
It's dead.
I got a bison.
I think that should be enough.
That should give us about 100, I think. Which is the max you can carry back per a hunting trip.
From the animals you shot, we got 854 pounds of meat. You were only able to carry 100 pounds. Oh no, my weak nerd arms.
I want to talk about something. Remember when the Oregon Trail was going across, when we put the bison species into endangered?
Yeah, they were overhunted.
Yeah, like a lot.
Also, a lot of them were killed literally just for sport and collecting of like the fur, hide and shit, versus actually using the meat.
I feel like South Dakota really made the bison really cool. Like, that's a big characteristic. Can you imagine if we're like riding on the roads and a herd of bison just walks across? We have to sit there forever.
All right, we're at Independence Rock.
We gotta get some food. We just ran out of food as we entered this place.
Yeah.
Zop is hungry. He's gnawing at my toes.
Attempt to trade. Let's see what we got to trade. No.
Why would you trade that?
We have perfect amount.
All right, let's try again.
Oh, she'll trade us one wagon wheel.
We need food.
Bullets? You can't eat bullets. Well, I mean, you could.
I can't eat that.
How come we can't rob other people?
We have plenty of bullets.
We have rights.
I guess we just have to press on. Felix is exhausted.
We need to hunt.
Let's just stop right away.
Felix has died. No,
I died.
Oh, he's died because you needed to eat.
He just looked back, saw like Felix was on the last legs, was like, all right, let's just go a little bit longer.
Oh, now you're hunting food. Thank you.
More bison.
More meat.
I can't believe Felix fucking died.
I just really feel like Silver just saw like how towards the end Felix was and just like, you know what? I'll let him die. It'll be more work to save him.
All right, 100 pounds. We continue. We're almost to another landmark. We need water. That's what we need.
And hunt soon.
All right, we're at South Pass. Let's attempt to trade, see what people got. No, we don't want bullets.
Should we rest here, like, for a little while? Are we able to, like, hunt from here?
Where did it all go wrong, Felix?
I think what happened, though, also is because we picked up the pace that we just went through so much more food.
Should we head to the river or Fort Bridger? Because we might be able to get supplies at Fort Bridger.
Let's go to Fort Bridger.
Zop has typhoid. Wendell has typhoid. Wendell, no.
Bro, we're all getting typhoid.
Might want to hunt now.
Pew pew.
Never had the opportunity for bear meat.
Dude, bear meat is like super greasy. Oh, there he is! There he is! Get the bear!
Stupid bear. Stupid squirrel.
The squirrel!
Fuck that squirrel.
That only gave us 237 pounds?
Wow.
Yeah, well, we kill one bison and we get over 800.
Alright, let us continue.
Our health.
A thief comes during the night and steals 8 oxen. They stole all our oxen.
How'd they steal all of them?
Wendell's gonna have to get out and push.
You just see Wendell out in front, like, grabbing the thing and just going.
You are unable to continue your journey. You have no oxen to pull your wagon. I'm just imagining Silmar and Wendell sitting at the reins of the wagon, just like, they're just saying, go, move forward, go.
Oh my god.
Go faster.
That is one way to end an adventure. Just be like, alright, you're done.
We're just stuck in the middle of the desert. We're just stuck out here.
Just some guy came up and took them all.
Felix is dead.
The dude probably just came up with a pack of food, was like, here, come with me. And the oxen are like, yes, these guys have no food.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I guess they're just stuck out there in the desert.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah, that was an interesting little experience for this podcast.
Audio only Oregon Trail.
I guess to wrap things up here, are there any other edutainment games you
biggest
guys want to
one,
talk
I guess,
about? You
that
know,
were
when you were a kid and you played games that were fun
was,
and
Reader
educational.
Rabbit.
Yeah, I remember those games.
Yeah, so there was this one, I can't remember what it was. I think it was like the Journey to Somewhere. We were basically going from book to book. You read a book, have these checkpoints to kind of continue the adventure. And really, that was the thing that got me into reading for a long time when I was a kid. I read almost every single book. Reader Rabbit was a big one for me.
When I think of educational video games, I always think back to the point-and-click adventure CD-ROM games. I played a ton of those as a kid. Magic School Bus games, I had several of those. Those were always fun. But the two that really stick out in my mind that I enjoyed were the Carmen Sandiego games. Specifically for me, it was Carmen Sandiego Great Chase Through Time. I played that one a ton as a kid. Kind of got me interested in ancient history looking back on it now. But the second series, and I played a few more of these, were the Clue Finders games. Do you guys remember those?
I remember them a little bit, not in a lot of detail though.
Yeah, so the Clue Finders, the whole thing was like it's a group of kids, like young teens or 13-year-olds, and they just go on all these adventures around the world. They go to like a volcano. There was one in South America where there's like a flying dragon monster, Mathra. And you know, the whole point of the games is you got to solve all these puzzles and stuff, which is pretty typical of the genre, but it's a good way to trick kids into actually learning stuff.
I had one that was fun that we all played in school. I remember telling you this about this game, Chase, and I think you said you think you remember playing it. There was this math class I was in, would have this whole period where we just have where we could just kind of do whatever, as long as it wasn't related to the class. Like we could go online, do education games or math stuff or whatever. But there was this one game.
Happy Wheels.
There was one game we would all play in that one class, and it was just it was a 3D game. In other words, it wasn't just 2D flat or anything like that. The creatures in the game were kind of like these alien things, and so were you. And you'd go up to them, answering a math equation that would show up within the right amount of time, and I think you had to do a few of them in succession. But then there's also doors that you'd go up to, and it'd do the same thing as well.
Quick question. So was this so it was 3D, but was it 3D animated? There were settings that you had different rooms, and then you kind of had those puzzles then?
No, you could just move around freely. It wasn't like a online flash game or anything. It was a game you had to actually download. I have no idea what it was called. I just think about that all the time because I'm always trying to remember what it was.
I'm just going through a list of educational games that were around when I was a young kid, and one that, this is just unearthing memories for me, but Treasure Math Storm. It was like this mountain hiking game.
To me, this is sounding like one of those, you better answer this math question or you'll die.
Pretty much.
This Yeti's gonna maul you. What were some of like the Pajama Sam or Putt Putt games? What was that company called again?
Dude, they're the same ones who made Backyard Baseball, I think.
I remember in school playing a lot of like a bridge builder game on Cool Math Games.
Cool Math Games. Oh, I remember going there.
Yeah, there's a bridge builder game on that. And I love playing it where you like try and build a bridge. It was like Poly Bridge before Poly Bridge, and you could had that your little guys had to like push a box across the bridge.
The developer was Humongous Entertainment.
Humongous Entertainment, that's it, yeah. I played quite a few of their games when I was a young kid.
Humongous Entertainment really knew how to keep my appeal.
I feel like the 90s, really the late 80s, the 90s, and early 2000s, that was really the peak of edutainment video games, educational games. Are educational games really still a huge thing? I don't think they are. Like games that are specifically meant to be fun, but primarily educate people, like kids.
I don't know, because I remember growing up, there was always like consoles coming out and stuff too, specifically for education games.
I mean, a lot of them thrived during the CD-ROM point-and-click adventure era, and when that genre kind of fell out of mainstream fashion, I guess it took edutainment games with them, but there are still a lot of games that had educational elements to them, like Age of Empires 2, for example. I remember just reading in-game encyclopedia on all the different civilizations and units and stuff. Same with the Sid Meier Civilization games.
Oh, those were always fun to play.
They're games that aren't really educational first and foremost, but I feel like the developers behind them figured, we have an opportunity here to teach people, so why not?
Oh, here's this fun fact about this thing, like whenever it's like based on something in reality.
Can the Assassin's Creed series be considered edutainment? Hey kids, we're gonna learn about history.
Just in a weird version where we can actually assassinate this guy with this guy.
I mean, I remember playing Assassin's Creed 3, I think, which is set during the American Revolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going into class around that time, reading through a history book about the American Revolution and seeing all these names, like the historical figures in that game, and being like, hey, I just talked to that guy in Assassin's Creed the other day. Huh, neat. I feel like there was this idea that is still kind of around. Like, I think VR games have taken advantage of this, but using hands-on direct experience with VR technology to educate and teach people. Like, you put on the headset and you're in the White House talking to old presidents like Washington or Lincoln or whatever.
I mean, that would be cool for like a history idea, because like I know there was a virtual museum.
Oh, I'm sure these things are still out there, virtual museums and VR, like I said, VR things. They're just not in the mainstream right now. You got to go out of your way to find them, and I think that's a bit of a shame. I feel like there should be more attention to trying to teach young kids, trying to educate them, give these kids a good school experience.
Yeah, and I feel like if there is like good ways, which has been shown to work actually very well, to like teach kids through gaming or whatever, I think it should be done. Like any kind of way to make the learning more fun, but make sure they're actually still learning what they need to learn. If it's more fun, it's going to be more beneficial because they're going to be more engaged. They're going to want to have fun and all this other stuff. Because don't you feel like you get more out of something if you enjoy it?
I mean, Minecraft is used to teach kids coding and programming, I think. Yeah, I just think education in general deserves more attention and funding.
It needs a huge reform.
I feel like the 90s really was the golden age for educational video games, and it's a bit of a shame. I wish there were still a prominent number of them out there, but hey, what do I know? I'm not in school right now, so I'm not really seeking these type of games out. I'm not going on Steam and looking up, like, first grade reading games,
I mean, there's probably so much, like, education games out there that we just don't know about because we just, again, don't pay attention to that area anymore. It doesn't pertain to us.
Yeah. Well, you learn something new every day, I say.
Definitely. I think right there would be a good place to wrap it up.
Talk about nostalgia.
Yeah. Well, I think when we were all young kids in the early to mid 2000s, that was kind of the tail end of that edutainment age, like I've been saying.
It's like we were definitely born like a little late for it, but early enough to at least experience it and enjoy it.
Right. I definitely remember playing a lot of games on my elementary school computers that were trying to teach me something. What did I retain? I have no idea.
It just kind of makes me kind of sad that those times are behind, but happy that they happened, you know?
Maybe a bit melancholy.
Well, that's just kind of childhood in general, you know? It's just here and then it's over, and you think back on it and it's like you separate your childhood from your adulthood as two different experiences. And yeah, the intervening years and everything in between, you didn't go from 10 to 20 instantaneously like that, but it's like you don't think of it that way. It's like there's just this huge gap between you as a kid and even your teenage years to your adulthood years. I don't know, I'm just mumbling to myself.
Nah, you're good, man.
There's a lot of games out there of a similar ilk, like Flash games, for example. I'd love to do an episode talking about Flash games, because I think when we were kids...
Oh yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. I feel like we kind of lived through the beginning and end of it.
Because Flash doesn't exist anymore. Rest in peace, Flash.
And it just died because of HTML5 update, was it?
We're looking at a tombstone that says Flash Media Player, and we're like, we saw you born and we saw you die.
Yeah.
Damn.
Like, me personally, it's like, played through the entire, like, timeline of it. I was playing Flash games up until it died.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to talk about Flash games in the future.
Yeah.
That's gonna be fun.
But in the meantime, thank you all for listening. Sitting next to our campfire out here on the frontier and listening to our dusty old tales of the Old West.
Yeah, it was fun having you.
If you'd like to get into contact with us or leave us any direct feedback, you can email us at backwardscompatiblepod@gmail.com, or you can leave us a review on your podcast listening platform of choice. And please do. We love to hear what you have to think.
And I was your host, Zaid.
I'm Garrett.
My name's Pioneer Chase. Yippee-ki-yay, yeehaw! There be gold in them there hills. Yee-hoo!
I think we need to perform an exorcism on Chase.